One of the reasons why I work so well with musicians and why I chose to go into the music industry is because musicians are very similar to entrepreneurs. First of all, we're both seen as the outcasts, the risk takers, and generally not seen in a positive light in the general public. Well, that is until we make it. Then we're seen as big heroes, right? I mean, how many of your friends and families keep asking you, so when are you going to get a proper job? We've always been different because we choose our own lives based on our own terms. Secondly, we both create something out of nothing. We have an idea and we use our tools and resources to transform that idea into life, into an actual finished product. These types of personalities are very similar, right? But there's one thing that sets them apart, and that is their core motivator. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Smartbucken, and in this week's video, I will give you 5 ways musicians can spark their entrepreneurial side. Before I get started, please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more music marketing related videos, just like this one. The biggest main difference between a musician and an entrepreneur is that a musician values creation, while an entrepreneur creates value. Musicians just want to make music, want to create art, but when it comes to putting a price on it, and creating products and commercializing it, they get lost. This is an artist's mentality. An entrepreneurial mentality will say, this is how we're gonna get it done. Or, I don't know how we're gonna get it done, but let's figure it out. Entrepreneurs do something they love, but also find the best and fastest way to scale that into a proper business. How to actually create revenue. Musicians don't give a shit if the money comes in or not. They will create music no matter what. It's a part of their personality and identity. But the biggest problem that I see working with musicians is that they're operating their business with an artist mindset. And what usually comes with an artist mindset is the lack of valuing yourself and creating products. Being entrepreneurial is a skill set musicians need to train. It will be the difference between making it or not. It will be the difference between the type of opportunities you create or receive. You can be very successful as an entrepreneur in your entrepreneurial efforts, but your core is being an artist. You're a musician. That's why you need to train this skill set continuously. And to help you with this and to grow your business, here are 5 tips that I've learned from being a student to being an entrepreneur and then moving over to the music industry. This will help you spark your entrepreneurial side of yourself. Number 1, knowing your weaknesses. Knowing your strengths and your weaknesses is going to be extremely important in your journey. By knowing that you have an artist mindset and acknowledging it and knowing the strengths and weaknesses that comes with that, you're already on the right path to succeeding. But most musicians know this, but they don't do anything about it. They say, oh, I don't know how to do it. This is why I need a manager. My label should take care of that. It's just not me. I'll tell you a little secret. One of my biggest weaknesses in college was public speaking. Whenever I got in front of the class, I choked. I started going to the bar next door to whenever I had my public speaking classes, to do a shot before, to just calm the nerves. I mean, it was brutal. I knew this was one of my biggest obstacles that I had to overcome in order to get where I wanted to be. When you know your weaknesses, you can start creating a plan and start working on it. I stopped using the excuses as, I'm so terrible at public speaking, I hate public speaking. along with all the negativity I associated with that, because I was more aware. Stop looking at your weaknesses from a negative perspective and just put the cards on the table. Enough with the excuses. You're not fooling anyone else but yourself. Number 2, you need to be a student. Growth is one of the 6 human needs. Tony Robbins said, if you don't grow, you will die. No one else is in charge of your growth other than yourself. When you know your weaknesses, this should be one of the areas that you actually invest time in. The first step is to start educating yourself around these areas. I'm not saying you need to go to business school or get a business degree here. I'm saying that you need to learn from the other people that has an entrepreneurial mindset. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, I study these skill sets every week. I listen to selected podcasts, I read books, I read news articles. I set aside time every week to do this, almost like a ritual. Even though I'm really busy at times executing my work, I always find time, I always set aside, even if it's just 20 minutes, to listen to a podcast or find a way to grow my mind. Prioritize time to develop these skill sets. Here are 3 podcasts that you can listen to that will teach the entrepreneurial mindset. The Tim Ferriss Show. Ever since I read The 4-Hour Workweek in college, Tim Ferriss has shaped my work and my life. He digs deep into their habits, their daily rituals, how they solve their problems, how they make their decisions. And what's genius about him is that he breaks it into tools and resources you can use. And that's what Tim Ferriss is doing in his show. Guests has been LeBron James, Peter Thiel. One of my favorite interviews is what he did with Jamie Foxx, where you got to know his story and the decisions and how he came where he is today. I mean, the list is all top notch. Don't you want to know how they start their day, how they structure their time, and how they make their decisions? Tim Ferriss will show you that. The Tony Robbins podcast. Whenever I go through hard times and need my motivation and energy back, I turn to Tony Robbins. You may have seen his Netflix special or his TED Talk previously. So basically, Tony Robbins is a life coach for the higher achievers. His podcast, it's great because it tackles the mental challenges that you face as an entrepreneur. And it will give you specific cases and interviews as well. He will help you form your entrepreneurial mindset, and he will give you specific tools to tackle it. A few guests on his show has been Pitbull, Michael Phelps, and my favorite, Simon Sinek. The Gary Vee audio experience. Gary Vee tells you exactly how it is. No bullshitting. And sometimes that's what we need. It's refreshing, it's new, it's brutal. He's the biggest advocate for just fucking do it, or fuck what everyone else thinks about you. And sometimes that's what we need to hear. You should listen to his tribute to Nipsey Hussle, who, by the way, was the perfect combination of entrepreneurial and artistic mindset. Also, here are some books you can start with. The 4-Hour Workweek, The Lean Startup, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Also, if you have more podcasts or book or other resources that will help musicians spark their entrepreneurial side, put them in the comment section. Number 3, you need to practice what you learn. So it's not just enough to study the mind of the entrepreneur. You need to start practicing it. You need to start doing things. Start experimenting with products and putting commercial value on art. Pricing yourself and forming products is a process done by testing, just doing it. I just saw an interview with Chance the Rapper's manager where he shared their journey, shared their story. Basically, they started together with one show in Lincoln Hall in Chicago where they just wanted to fill that one up. And when they did that, they decided to grow more on that format. They did more and more. The same goes for Nipsey Hussle, the $100 mixtape, where he created a product, he put commercial value on it, and he found a way to sell it. The art of creating a business around your music starts by testing products. Start thinking creatively around your art and start putting prices on products. You need to move from passion over to products. This is where it becomes uncomfortable for you. The way I overcome my weaknesses of public speaking was to actually practice it. I needed to go outside of my comfort zone. That's how you grow. Every opportunity that I will get on a stage, I would say yes to. Public speaking, I would do teaching, presentations, pitching in front of investors. Eventually, I started getting paid for speaking in front of people. I would practice, and I did what I was most uncomfortable doing. That's what musicians need to do as well. You need to take those meetings. You need to step out of your passion now and start forming products and thinking of way to sell it. And speaking of selling it, let's move over to 4. You need to talk about money. You need to have a healthier relationship with money and also with promoting yourself and selling yourself. Your art will not sell by itself. I'm sorry to tell you this, but in this day and age, it just won't happen. Too many times I see artists put their blood, sweat, and tears into creating their music. But when it's time to promote it, they post one post and hope people will show up and then nothing else. Along that line of history with musicians, making money has been associated with selling out. Going commercial, then you're a sellout. Making money in the music industry has sometimes been looked at as negatively. Almost every musician that I have worked with has underpriced themselves, therefore undervalued themselves. So the first thing I do is make them aware of this. But whenever you talk about money, musicians will go into their safe zone. They hate it. The last tip actually goes out for my entrepreneurs out there, what you can learn from musicians. There is a benefit of creating without a goal of income. What I see far too many times is that entrepreneurs will lose their motivation and then their passion. They don't have the discipline to keep going through the failures that they need to go through in order to get success. Artists never loses their passion just because they stop making money from it. It will always be there. Or they don't make money at all because they don't go into it with the goal of making money in the first place, that is. You will be a better business owner and an entrepreneur if you focus on your passion and let that drive your growth and motivation. The passion is what is going to take you through the different failures that you need to go through. And the passion will eventually bring you success as well. Wherever you may be on your journey as a musician and to make a living off of your passion, it is important to recognize your weaknesses. From educating yourself in your spare time to facing your fears, there's a never-ending story to the highs and lows of being a musician and an entrepreneur. Allow yourself time to plan out your strength, but also work on your weaknesses. We're all capable of greatness, but what separates the great from the good is the time that you will invest in the process. So there you have it, 5 ways musicians can spark their entrepreneurial side. If you like what you saw here today, go ahead and click subscribe for more music marketing related videos that I launch every week. It's a wrap.